Travelling to the UK under the EU settlement scheme, the EUSS, differs depending on whether you have status under the scheme or not. Here is a breakdown of the key considerations for travelling to the UK in both scenarios. Travelling with status under the EU settlement scheme. The EU settlement scheme grants either settled or pre-settled status, depending on how long you have lived in the UK prior to the 31st of December 2020. Both statuses provide different rights and conditions for travel. Settled status. If you have settled status, you have the right to live permanently in the UK. You can freely enter and exit the UK without restrictions. No visa requirements. You do not need a visa to enter the UK as your status confirms your right to live and work in the country. Right of return. You can leave the UK for up to 5 consecutive years without losing your settled status. Please be advised that it is 4 years for Swiss citizens. Pre-settled status. If you have pre-settled status, you can enter and leave the UK freely. Visa-free entry. You do not need a visa as long as you can prove your pre-settled status. However, if you leave the UK for more than 2 consecutive years, you risk losing your pre-settled status. The status is temporary, 5 years, and you need to apply for settled status before it expires. Documents needed for travel are passports or ID cards. EU citizens can use either, but check specific UK entry requirements post-Brexit. Many EU ID cards are no longer accepted, except for certain groups. Proof of status. While status is stored digitally, having access to your online status details is recommended in case immigration officials need confirmation. Travelling without status under the EU settlement scheme. If you do not have status under the EUSS, your ability to travel to the UK depends on your nationality and the specific purpose of your trip. For EU, EEA and Swiss nationals, short visits, up to 6 months, for tourism, business or family visits can be made without a visa. You can stay for a maximum of 6 months, but you cannot work or live permanently without further permissions. Work or long-term stays require applying for a visa, for example, skilled worker, family or study visas. ID cards are no longer accepted from October 2021 for entry, except for certain individuals like those with EU settlement scheme status or specific rights. You may need a visa to enter the UK for any purpose, including short visits depending on your country of origin. Post-Brexit travel rules. The UK's departure from the EU has introduced new rules that impact EU citizens without EUSS status. Key changes include visa-free travel for up to 6 months, for tourism, business or family visits. No automatic right to work or study. Visa applications are needed for these purposes. Passport requirements. EU nationals must use a passport, as most ID cards are no longer valid for UK entry. Proving your status. To prove settled or pre-settled status, you can log into your online Home Office account using the UK government's view and prove your status service. Share your status with employers, landlords or officials by providing a code they can use to confirm your immigration status online. Re-entering the UK post-travel. If you have settled or pre-settled status, you can re-enter the UK as long as you have not been away beyond the allowed period. Please note that it is 5 years for settled status and 2 years for pre-settled. Upon return, make sure to carry your passport or other accepted travel document, and if necessary, provide proof of your status. Issues to watch out for. Losing status. If you remain outside the UK for too long, 2 years for pre-settled, 5 years for settled, you lose your status and need to reapply. Document requirements. EU ID cards may not be valid for travel anymore, so always travel with your passport. Understanding these rules helps ensure a smooth experience when travelling to and from the UK, regardless of whether you hold status under the EU settlement scheme. For more information, get in touch using the details on screen.